Hi there, welcome to Transcone Trailer Sales. Today we'll be walking you through 2025 Wildwood Heritage Glen 310Bhi. We are just going to start off at the back unit. You are pre-wired for an observation camera up top there. You are also pre-mounted for a collapsible Lippert stair system. If you'd like to get set up with either of those, you can contact our parts department. They'd be more than willing to put together a quote for you just to see what everything costs, and you can go ahead with that if you decide. You got your exterior shower right at the back here. It's going to be your standard 751P, which should come included with your unit. Stick it in there like that, flip it down. You got hot and cold water and a swivel head shower. The hose is about 3 or 4 feet long. You got your water hookup out back here. So you got your fresh water connections. That is going to be what fills your fresh tank, and that's what your water pump draws off of. Right next to that, you do have your city water connection. So if you're at a site with service, you can thread a garden hose in there, turn it on. It's going to pressurize all those lines without the needing to run your water pump. And then right in the middle is the black tank flush. So the way that works is thread a garden hose in there, turn it on. But of course, reading the caution sticker, it's going to tell you that you have to have your black tank sewer hose connected as well as the tank opened. Reason being, if you're pushing pressure inside that tank and that pressure's got nowhere to go, it could expand the tank to the point of cracking. So making sure that you do that, that's just going to help with any false monitor panel readings or odor around the unit. Right at the back also, they give you a nice little spot to store your sewer hose. Loosen off the cap like so, pulling it off. You can store your sewer hose in there. It's probably going to be the best place to keep it. It's going to keep most of the smell out of the unit. And then to get back in place, you're just lining it up, locking it back in. It's all good. And you're not going to smell anything inside. And then also right down below, you're going to see you got that 2-inch receiver, but keep it in mind, maximum load capacity is 250 pounds. So realistically, you're just good for a bike rack, so keep that in mind whenever you're using it. Around the driver's side of the unit, you're going to come to your first gray tank dump, taking that pipe, pulling the twisting, get those 2 ears, those same 2 ears your sewer hose has, line them up like so, lock them in place, and you're all done. And that's for your first gray tank. Up top above this window, you might need a little step ladder to get up there. You're going to want to have that open whenever you're at your campsite, so that way you can evacuate those fumes whenever you're operating your range hood. And then whenever you're not operating the range hood, it just snaps into place. Unfortunately, I'm not tall enough to reach that, so I will get a ladder after to make sure that's snapped up for you. Get your furnace exhaust, so whenever that's on, it's going to be blowing out hot air, so be mindful of that. And then just a couple other things. If you've had a camper before, you probably had a tanked water heater, in which case when it came time to winterizing, you had bypass valves at the back which you had to turn. This is the complete opposite. If there is bypass valves behind it, which I don't think there is, do not turn them. You want to make sure you run antifreeze through this system, of course with it being off. And then once you're completely done winterizing the rest of the unit, opening up this pressure relief valve, leaving it cracked open for the duration of winter, so that way once that antifreeze does expand, it has a place to go. It's not going to crack any of those coils on you, causing you any grief. You got your 50 amp twist lock connection here. You're just taking that, twisting it off. You just take a note of that strip there. It lines up with this strip on this side. Once you get that lined up, push it firmly into place, 8th turn to lock it down, and then you got that threaded collar to really hold it in. If you follow that end back, you do have standard 50 amp plug end. Now, a lot of campsites may not have this connection, so we do include this 30 amp dog bone adapter. Just keep it in mind when you're going down to 30 amps of power, you can't run 2 air conditioners at once, which you do have 2 air conditioners. You can only run 1 at a time, so just be very mindful of that whenever you're going down to 30 amps of power. But if you're on the 50, you are fine. And then even to go down from the 30, if you've had this unit on the driveway or your campsite only has 15 amp service, we also include that adapter. But again, going down to 15 amps of power, realistically, it's just to run your fridge and your lights. That's about it. Now up ahead is your main sewer hose dump. Twisting that knob off, same ears we had before. And then of course you got all your other different valves. So this one on the left is going to be for the galley, so that's just for the kitchen sink. You got your second gray tank right here, and then this big one is the black one. That's going to be your dirtiest water filled from your toilets. That's the one you're going to want to empty first. And then you can do the other ones corresponding at whatever time you please, but always recommend running that black one first. It's just your dirtiest water. Keeps the hose that little bit cleaner when you run the grays last. Up front here, looking at this guy, you do got your front storage compartment. Take a note of that starter kit. That's gonna be where your sewer hose is located, as well as some other miscellaneous goodies, including that 15-amp park adapter. Besides that, whenever you're using this for storage, just being mindful, you're gonna see this brace here. That's what your bed ram runs on. So just being mindful of that when you're stacking things in there. It does move, so you don't want to stack anything too close to it. You got your solar controller right at the front wall here. There's a bunch of different settings you can go into. It gets pretty in depth. I recommend going over the owner's manual to go play with any of that. We currently have it set up for your basic charging needs. If there's sun outside, it's going to be applying a charge to your battery. And then you got your battery disconnect switch on the wall here. With it in the on position, the batteries are connected to the unit. If you switch it to the off position, the batteries will become disconnected from the unit. And then on the wall here, you do have a manual override for your power jacks. In case those were to fail, I'll show you where that is quickly, but we will use the electric option. So that shaft there, you got jacks front and rear. We're gonna run them on the electric today, but if they were to ever fail, that is, they do have an override for that. Now around the front of the unit, battery inside that box there. Got your 2 propane tanks inside here. Loosening off these tabs will get you inside. Typically, that's all you need to do to access your 2 propane tanks. Lift this cover right off just for the purpose of the video, so you can see how easy it is. Then you got your 2 propane tanks. Selector valve on the front of the regulator here. With it pointed this way, you're obviously drawing off this tank. Point it to the other side, you will be drawing off that tank. Turning it on counterclockwise all the way like any standard barbecue, and you have propane flowing to the unit. Rubber cap up top for your override for your tongue jack. Just the other side of your storage compartment. You get that, that's the manual override for your tongue jack. And then on the wall here, hitting that switch on the wall, the black switch, turns on some beautiful accent lighting in front of the camper. So if you really want to impress your friends at the campground, leaving those on at night might attract some attention. And then also in the compartment, you have a motion sensing light. Great little feature. So when it's on the 2, there's 2 different settings. Clicking it to the right is going to be on setting 1, which is on full time. In the middle is off, and then clicking it to the left, it's going to be motion sensing, so it's going to stay on for a few minutes. Once it senses no motion, it'll turn itself off. Here's going to be the control for your jacks. So you got extend and retract. Hitting the extend button, jacks are going to start making their way down to the ground. Once they contact the ground, you're going to hear the motors wind up, and that's when you can let off the button. So now that we're almost down to the ground, just go over a couple things quickly. They are stabilizing jacks. They're not leveling jacks. Don't try and use them like that. Otherwise, there is the chance you could burn out the motor or even bend the legs. So just be mindful of that whenever you're using them. And sometimes, because it's an open gear system, the feet can go down and up at different times. Don't panic if that starts happening. Just hold the button, allow them to do their thing. It'll work itself out eventually. The only thing you have to be mindful for is just this feet, making sure they're nice and flat. You hear them wind up like so, and that's when you know they're fully extended, and you're all good to go. Now you can retract them. It's just total opposite. Hitting and holding that retract. Jacks will start sucking their way to the bottom of the trailer. Once they contact the bottom of the trailer, you're going to hear those motors wind up, and then you need to let off the button. And that's all the way in. One thing I forgot to go over inside this panel here, opening this guy, you're going to notice you have a second bar on the wall there. that is to bring down your spare tire in case you ever need it. You got a hole right in the side here. Goes through to this nut here. Once you hook that up, it's on a cable system. Loosening it off, you're going to lower that tire down to the ground, which will then allow you to pull the cable out of the way and suck it back in. Dog latch for any sort of animals you could have. You do got 2 coax outlets out here, as well as a couple of plugins in case you want to plug in the TV. Furnace exhaust, whenever that's on, it's going to be blowing out hot air, so be mindful of that. Maybe a little exterior kitchen setup. Loosening those guys off. Again, switch for the rear tongue, the rear stabilizing jacks right here. I already went over the front one, so you should be good. Work the same way. Opening this up, nice little spot out here. Again, some more motion sensing lights, and the same thing goes to these guys. Setting 2 is motion sensing, 1 is on full time. You got your mini fridge. This is only working when you're in shore power. It's not going to work on 12 volt. Sink. You got your little griddle. Pulling that guy out. You're going to notice you got your quick connect line. Undoing the dust caps on both ends. That'll then allow you to pull your collar back like any standard airline and just press that into place. I like assisting the brass fitting there just as you push it in, so you're not putting any excess strain on it. Then you can run this down to your quick connect over here. You're already plumbed into those 2 front tanks. Pulling that dust cap off, always making sure you use the dust cap whenever you're not using them. That way you're not getting any debris into the lines. Push, press into place, locks in. Opening up the flow of propane, added safety feature, can operate the coupler whenever the flow of propane's open. And you have flowing propane now to your griddle, and it'll be as simple as hitting it over to that light option and sparking it. And then just the opposite to disconnect it, pulling back on the collar, bringing it all back in, and then of course just making sure that you do put the dust caps on everything again. And you can just throw that hose behind the griddle and slide everything back in place nice. And you can be all done inside here. Now, time for the best part. We're going to take a step on inside. Taking that assist handle, pushing it up, pulling it 90 degrees, it'll lock in place. It'll allow you to open up the door. Open up the door fully, it'll allow you to fold down your stairs, and down. You got adjustable adjustable legs, so you can have nice and level stairs for your campsite. Fold those down, taking a step on inside. First thing you notice off on the left is that fire extinguisher. Pretty simple, pull the pin in and shoot. Light switch on the wall here where it says dimmer control. It's kind of the main light system for the main living space. It's on a dimmer, so you can dim or bright. And then you get to your control monitor system. You got gray 1 and gray 2, which is your 2 gray tanks. And then you got gray 3. Gray 3 is the galley. Then you have 1 black, which is just hooked up to black, and you freshen your battery. Pushing them gives you the corresponding levels. Pretty simple. Tank heaters, you're equipped with an extended camping season package. Unfortunately, our Manitoba winters get much too cold for it to be adequate. Realistically, if you're going anything below -0, you're running the risk of things freezing. These are just heaters that are strapped onto the bottom of your tanks to try and warm them up. Like -3, you might be okay, but -10 is definitely too cold. Water pump, turning that on, draws from your fresh tank. And then, of course, you have some more accent lighting behind your slide outs with that. This one's going to do your 2 awning LED strip lights on both awnings. And then this one turns on this little hallway light right here. Then you have all your different awning and slide out controls. Whenever you're operating a slide out, always making sure you know what's on either side of the slide before you operate it. The reason I'm saying that, if things shift inside and you don't notice, you're not paying attention, it could cause some damage to the slide. So always making sure you're paying attention when you're putting those out, especially on the other side of the slide, making sure you have enough room to put it out. But to put it out, it's pretty simple. Pushing and holding the out button, the slide out's going to start making its way out. And once it's at full extension, you're going to hear the motors wind up and click. And always running those slide outs one at a time. You hear the click and let off. Get the second main living space slide here coming out. last but not least, you got your rear bunk room slide I'm going to put out now. Once that's out, and you hear the clicking and you know it's out. Next, you go over your awning controls. They both work the same. Unfortunately, we're only going to be able to put out one of them, and I'm not even sure if we'll be able to get it out all the way. That's going to be the one we can't get out. Now we got this one coming out. Both awnings do work the same way. You're just pushing them down, allowing them to roll themselves out. Once they have reached their full extension, you're going to see the back of the metal tube and the little flap hang down. Sometimes that flap can get stuck, so if you see the back of the metal tube and the flap, then you just have to retract it and put it back out just to get that flap down. Yeah, see, we don't have enough room to go all the way out. But before we start rating the hang arm front or rear, pulling down at the center, it's going to change the pitch of the awning head, allowing water to now run off. Now if you like that angle better, because it allows for more shade underneath, you do the same thing with the front arm, just making sure you do push these arms back to straight before you run the awning in. That way you don't run the risk of bending anything. Whenever you have your awning out, always just keep an eye on the wind speeds. It doesn't take much to cause some damage. They are much like wind sails. You could bend your arms or rip your fabric pretty easily. You got your JBL sound system, Bluetooth sound system up here. We're gonna take a step into the bedroom first. Some nice coat hooks on the wall. Lights for the bedroom on the wall here. Then you got your versatile bed control. Pushing it up, it allows it to make its way up. And push it down, it's gonna make its way down. All the blinds in the unit do work the same way. They just kind of sit where you leave them. Storage all around, and whenever you're using the storage, always be mindful of drains, water line, and wiring. That way you're not damaging anything. Tons of accent lighting all throughout this unit, just on their own center push buttons. In the front, you do have your second air conditioner. The controls for it are all up top here. You're going to notice it has this red setting. Now that is if it were to have a heat pump equipped. This one doesn't have it equipped, so you could always just leave it on the blue setting. And then you got two different fan options. You got high and low fan. That's going to be low fan. You got high fan. That's just moving air around with the air conditioner, no heating or cooling involved. And whenever you're moving that air, you can either run these louvers open, in which case it's going to dump all its air into this bed space, or you can close them up and it's going to move its air through the ceiling ducting you have all throughout this unit. Then one more turn, you're going to get into the blue fan. The blue fan is when the air conditioning takes into effect and you start cooling it off. We'll go over that front thermostat once we get there. Like I said, storage all throughout. You got plug-ins on both sides of the bed there. Nice front window there. It does have a shade. You are prepped for a washer-dryer combo. If you'd like to get set up with that, you can contact a parts department and they can put together a quote for you. But you do come pre-plumbed and pre-wired for it, or you can use it as a closet space. Again, another motion sensing light, setting 2 motion sensing, setting 1 on full time. Whenever we're walking throughout this unit, you're going to notice you got some travel straps all around. Whenever you're traveling, always making sure you're latching all these doors. And of course your TV back here gets pretty hectic when you're driving, and even though you don't realize it, these will be sliding back and forth. It doesn't take much to cause damage. We'll take a step into the bathroom next. Taking a step on into the bathroom, light switch is on your left. You got your thermostat up on the wall. If the switch would have been on outside, you just hit the power button, it would turn on. You go between Celsius and Fahrenheit, up and down to change your different set temperatures. Off to turn that light switch off. You also have an accent lighting behind the mirror by turning that on. Great for selfies if you're into that. Medicine cabinet right here. You're going to notice you got some antifreeze inlet. This is where your water pump's located. 2 screws, top and bottom. Pop the cover off. It's going to give you access to that bypass hose for winterization. Other than that, pretty much your standard bathroom. I did forget to mention inside the bathroom here, if you come back inside, you got your vent lid. Twisting that guy open. Now, if you were to start traveling, always a reminder, You have to make sure you close this, and if it were to start raining, it is going to get wet in here if it's open. Well, that's why we do sell max air covers. It's a great little addition to go with your camper. It's essentially a vent lid that comes right over top of this vent. It's going to allow you to leave that open while traveling, and if it's were to start raining, it's not going to get wet inside here. If you'd like to get set up with that, you can contact the parts department once again. They'll be happy to put a quote in for you. Now, stepping into the main living space. In the slide out area, again, all the windows work the same way. They just kind of sit where you leave them. You got your 2 recliner chairs. Additional to that, pushing that pops this guy open. You got a USB on one side, USB-C on the other. You can close it with just the press of a button, flip it if you want to have a 3-person couch. You got your dinette right down below if you were to have some extra guests additional to your rear bedroom. You can set your tabletop onto your desired ledges just by pulling out these feet out of the bottom of the table, and then you can take your back cushions to fill in the center. You have yourself another bed. Again, we got some more accent lighting throughout this unit just with the press of a button. Storage, you're prepped for King Wi-Fi system 2 as well. Again, if you're wanting to get set up with that, just contact your parts department and they put together a quote for you. Into your entertainment area, a couple USB plugins as well as a couple 120 plugins. Down below, you got your nice fireplace power button on the far right. The button to the left of that does your different flame colors. Right in the middle will do your different rock light colors. And then 2 in from the far left, you got your different heat options. Pushing the button twice gets you into low heat. Pushing it one more time will put you into high heat. And then you got a timer that goes anywhere from 30 minutes to 9 hours. Down below, your main fuse and breaker panel. Whenever you ever break a trip, it's going to sit in the middle, so you do just have to turn it off and then back on again to reset it. All your corresponding fuses will be on the right here. Whenever you're running your furnace blows all its air through the floor portals we have throughout the unit. And then your air conditioner, of course, runs through the ceiling ducting you have throughout. Behind the TV, right where your coax cable comes out, there's a little black button beside it. I know it's probably going to be hard to see through the camera, but if you press it, it turns the green light on. That and turns on the antenna on the roof. It also improves radio frequency and cell phone frequency. So I always recommend leaving it on unless you're leaving the unit. Then I recommend turning it off because it does draw battery power. Noticing you do have a travel strap on the fridge. Beautiful little pantry spot. Now you got your sink, hot and cold water. Storage all underneath. On this side, again, some more accent lighting, lots of accent lighting with this one. And then right down below, you got your LP detector because this is quick propane. Propane's heavier than air. If this guy ever starts going off, you're just getting to worry some oxygen levels. So turn off your main supply of propane at the front of your unit and open up some windows and vents just to ventilate things out a little bit, get some fresh oxygen inside. It's also very sensitive to cleaning chemicals, so if you were to be cleaning around it and it starts going off, use your best judgment, but typically it could just be that. Into your kitchen slide area, range hood right up top. Whenever you're running your stove, always recommend running your range hood, that way you're evacuating all those fumes. Might even help to crack that window open. Glass top, always being careful with it when you're opening and closing it. And to get your stove to light, of course, the propane has to be on at the front of the unit. If you had the propane system off for a while and then you turn it back on, it allows air into the system when it's off. So sometimes it can take a few minutes to purge all the air out of the lines. So whenever you get to your campsite and you turn on that propane for the first time in a while, I always recommend going to fire up your stove first. It's the easiest, quickest way to purge all the air out of the system. Because if you were to go to fire up your water heater or your furnace, those only try to light themselves a few times. And if they don't light, they will just throw a fault code. So just to stop the confusion, you could just start here, just give it a quick fire. Of course, I did have the system running earlier, so that's why I did fire up. Sometimes it can take a few minutes just to get all the propane through. So just be patient with it. The same goes for the stove. The stove can be even more finicky than the oven. Just pushing over to the pilot, pushing and holding the button in, hitting the igniter. Whenever you're having any of these gases on, you're always wanting to make sure to hit that igniter every few seconds. That way you don't have no buildup of gas, any combustion going on. We all like to keep our eyebrows. Once the pilot lights and holds its own, you can turn it up to your desired temperature and it does fire right on up. You got some accent lighting as well as an oven light down below. You can choose either or. Then you got your microwave, which is pretty much just like home. Not much I'm going to show you there. And then you got your Furrion fridge freezer combo. Down below you got the fridge, you got the temperature control for both, clockwise all the way. It's coldest setting, anywhere before that's a warmer setting, and then of course there's some off-grid writing. That's just letting you know the most energy efficient setting to have it on when you're running on battery power. And then you do have that charcoal filter on your far left. Pop that guy off. That's just to help with fridge odors. If you'd like to get any replacement ones of these, contact the parts department. They'll be more than happy to help you out. So now we got our main thermostat here. So we'll go over a couple things. Hitting the button twice will get you into your mode. I first want to go over the fan with you. So whenever you have your fan, you can either turn it on high or low. So that's going to be running full time, just moving air around with the air conditioner. There's no heating or cooling involved. Go back to off, hitting the mode button twice. You can go over to cool, hit it again. Now when you go into your fan, when you're on the air conditioning mode, you're going to notice an auto come up. Auto meaning it's going to be an on-demand system, so it's going to kick in and out as it's needed. So let's say the room, for example, is 22. We have it set to 20. Because it's in high auto, the fan's kicking on. We're pumping air conditioning. Once this thermostat senses the room's at 20 degrees, it's going to kill that. If you were to turn this over to low or high without the auto, it's just going to run full time regardless of what the room's set to. Next, you go over to heat. That's going to kill the air conditioner, fire up the furnace. Whenever you fire up your furnace, it's moving its air through all the floor portals we have throughout, and it's only got one fan speed. Whenever you turn the furnace off, it does run for an additional 3 minutes, so just be mindful of that. And then, of course, you do have a cool plus heat option, real neat option Coleman threw in there. So it'll fire up either or depending on what you have your room set to. And then you got a dry option, which is just dehumidifying mode to try and take as much moisture out of the air as possible. Last but not least, we'll get into the bunk room. Light switch on your far left. Customer did opt to go with this nice bunk ladder. You got a little handle here so you can step on up as well. Storage all throughout. Back exit, fire exit here. Pushing the 2 tabs, pull that up. Once it locks into its highest setting, you can take the screen, push it on up, climb on out of the unit. Then over here, you currently can have a few different options. You can run that bunk up and these cushions down, in which case you have a little couch area, hanging out spot for the kids. Now this also does fold out and it can turn into another bed. And then up top, you got safety latches on either side. You got to pull them up into the middle, unlock them from the wall, and that'll allow you to fold that down into another bed. That is going to be it for this unit here. If you have any other questions, feel free to give us a call.